with the end user. So, okay. Who wants to start? Well, the question is, okay, how does culture and heritage, your heritage, figure in to your work? In what part, in what stage of your process?
I could start.
Okay, Yeohlee, you're on. Yeah. But I don't think they can hear you.
I'm mic'd. Is my mic working?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to hold it up like this. I grew up in Malaysia and, amongst Nyonyas and Babas. And I don't know if all of you are familiar with that culture, but Nyonyas and Babas are the Chinese that intermarried into the Malay culture. And when I was little, the biggest compliment that my parents and friends and their friends paid to anybody was to say that so-and-so is a simple man. And I think that I took that to heart when my work is concerned, because the basis of my work is to simplify things. And my work is a lot about reduction, and as Calvin said, how do you say it? Universal design. And I'm very into that, and I think that the reduction and the simplicity and the need and desire to be able to clothe everyone rather than being elitist probably comes directly from the way I was brought up.
Interesting. Well, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, China, and in a very remote inland city. That means it's really a generation of confusion of what cultural heritage really is. So we, as Xi'an is in the middle of this imperial dynasty capitals, however, it was completely substituted for this socialist kind of military reallocation. That's the what they call third frontier, which all the kind of national defense industry was located. So somehow you're right in the middle of it, but you're kind of remote from it simultaneously. And then that was obviously the Cultural Revolution when we were really small. And the whole agenda was to remain critical about what the tradition is really about. So to us, heritage is rather abstract, but the kind of the process to recreate, to be critical about it, became part of the cultural agenda, and that actually remained a lot in my practice too. When I read the title of the discussion of design and identity, that I quickly kind of recite on the creative process of design. So there are really two parts of the process. One is reflective, where tradition, heritage, and comes in. But when you take design as a creative process, it's really to kind of create an energy outlook for the future that is new, that is not so much linked to the tradition. So somehow the process of creative has to remain critical. So history to us is always like a reference. How can you depart from it? And that's part of my practice, principle of my practice as well. That's related to, again, the time that I grew up and the place where I grew up.
I think in my case would have been, let's say, born in China and left when I was 10, so as a little girl, and then moving over to Holland. The thing what I took is really, let's say, to take the best of both and being able to understand the Chinese part of it, but also had the opportunity and the opportunity to develop the individual part of myself while growing up in Holland, to embrace the openness, the liberty of it. So I think my thing was really to able to understand where I was coming from, but having given the opportunity to find myself in the journey, be able to give them the freedom and develop that. And then by being here, it's really like ability to take the best of what I think was that's the best either to the beauty and design, the aesthetic part of it, and understand that culturally there's difference in there. Yeah, able to take the best out of there and then be flexible and able to adapt and take and reinterpret from what I think it's the newness coming out of there. So it's really the heritage for me it's part of me, and that's not so much of, let's say, to dissect either I'm one or the other. It just really, it molds in there and something else comes out of it.
Well, that's interesting. It just dawned on me that there are three of us which are bicultural, but primarily our lives are lived in the West. Whereas Qingyun, yours, of course, are very equal in balance. And my curiousness is the distance or the immersion within a culture, which one is, how does it work? For me, I just feel that, in fact, I had a lot of time to think about my Chineseness, especially when I immigrated to the United States, and my parents are constantly saying, don't forget your past, don't forget your heritage. And then it became kind of a cartoon because they would have slogans, about filial piety or whatever. And some of them just didn't ring true for me, as they put it. And I had to really defend myself as I was exploring new ideas, new ways of seeing the world, new cultural relevance for myself. So there's sort of like a tripartite structure where you have a Chinese thing, which you're not really participating in. It's sort of mythological. You've got to get a sense of it through memory. And then there's the moment, which is where you inhabit, and you're creating, not only responding to what's the culture around you, but how it is impacting you. So, and then finally, there's the own inner blossoming of an individual as you mature and grow and feed off of these things. So when you're saying that, history is always there, it sounds like really heavy. History was not there for me other than the fact that, my grandparents would just bug me about, things, just like all grandparents. And then there's this sort of world out there that I need to navigate. And same thing, I think, for two of you, which is a simple man, and it all of a sudden starts to echo into your brain, simple man, simple man, simple man, and it all of a sudden becomes like the whole thing, of your work. So I love to hear from you, because I'm just dying to know what it's like to live with all that heritage.
Well, that people in China grew up in 60s, 70s, really, and we never feel the burden. But it's actually so much so that when we graduated from college, that's the year of student movement, the whole Tiananmen thing. That was, that's how it accumulated. But at that time, we thought that must be the modern, the contemporary tradition of China at that time, kind of bring all these heaviness onto our shoulder. But then later on, when we kind of start to be apart from that incident, we find actually whatever happened in the 60s and 70s is part of a long history of Chineseness as well. So it's never really changed. However, I guess as architects, we tend to think things in a very abstract way. I reside on Chineseness in very abstract terminologies. For example, I've been thinking about what really is Chineseness. Is it about that building? Is it about that, So some time ago I wrote this little essay about Chineseness that I came up with 3 words that I think that is so abstract that it could really navigate through the world. The first would be flexibility. And being Chinese, you have to be flexible. I mean, that's really contemporary. It's like total modernity in a way. And second is the ambiguity. To be Chinese, you have to be ambiguous. That is just such a key word for postmodernity, right? So somehow then there's the kind of resilience, there's the tolerance that somehow transforms into any form that can actually adapt to the best or find the situations that actually bring you in the best way to a reality. And that kind of ability of Chineseness is just remarkable. It really transcends any form, any type of cultural stereotype. And then if you keep going, is the speed, right? Speed is also Chinese. It's actually not modern Chinese, it's actually ancient Chinese. If you think the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, who would unify the measurement of land, the currency, in about 28 years.